Awesome. All right. Hello and welcome to our March session of the Female Leadership Series. We've now reached the halfway point in our monthly session, and I'm happy that you're all able to join us tonight. We do have a smaller crowd, but I think things are starting to get busier in the sport world. That's okay. My name, for those of you who don't know, is Janice Kugel. I'm the participation lead at Sport Nova Scotia. I'm also a rugby coach, athlete, board member, and like many of you, a female leader. I'm so honored to be the lead for the Women and Girls Task Force and your host for tonight's session. In addition to Sport Nova Scotia, following partners who've helped shape this extraordinary event, the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic, Support for Sport, Nova Scotia Gaming, and the Government of Nova Scotia Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage. On behalf of the Women and Girls Task Force and our partners, I'd like to acknowledge that our offices are located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are aware that there may be participants joining us from all over and welcome you to share in the chat where you currently reside. For the duration of the panel, we ask that you turn off your camera and mute yourself to reduce any background noise and feedback and help with the bandwidth, as we do have quite a few people in the session tonight. If you'd like to change your Zoom viewing to speaker view, this can actually be done by clicking the gallery view button at the top of your screen and changing it to presenter view. Please direct any questions to the chat box. If you want to speak aloud, simply use the raise the hand function or indicate so in the chat box. We'll call on you when you may speak. If you'd like to submit an anonymous question, please private chat a host. So there are 4 hosts on this evening, including myself, and their names start with host. If you experience any technical difficulties whatsoever or have general questions, please message the hosts. We will be recording tonight's session. Just wanted you all to be aware. As well, if you miss any sessions, they will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. This brings me to my very last piece is please actively participate in all of our polls. So tonight, we want to know, as always, where are you joining us from? And what is your role in sport? Give you a couple minutes here. Great, so it looks like the majority of folks are from the central region, and we have 2 people from outside of Nova Scotia joining us this evening. You want to share in the chat box where you're from, that would be fantastic. We're always curious to know. And what is your role in sport? The primary role in sport tonight is a board member, so that's fantastic. That's what you're going to learn all about tonight, so happy to have you here. Awesome. Thank you, Kirsty. And we have someone joining us from Ajax, Ontario tonight. Hello. And Alex from Toronto in Treaty 13. Awesome. Wonderful. Let's get started. Tonight, we're going to endeavor to help you shed some light on where and how the Nova Scotia sports system works and some high-level board basics. We're going to be using Annotate tonight and Jamboard. Both of these functions work best on a computer, so if you're joining us from a phone or tablet, you're always welcome to contribute by using the chat box, and one of our hosts will ensure that your information is recorded. So to start with tonight's Jamboard, we want to know how knowledgeable do you currently feel about the Nova Scotia sports system? So if you're on a computer, if you just take your mouse and hover along the top of your screen, you should see a little button along the top there that says view options, and then there's annotate. And you're going to select on that annotate button right there, and it's going to pull up some options. So I love the stamp button. There's 6 little stamps there. You can pick a stamp and just stamp based on this continuum where you feel you are. Awesome. So I am completely new to this, which is fantastic. You're in the right place, I hope. a little bit in that middle scale and some towards the very knowledgeable, but no one jumping right in there and embracing the very, very knowledgeable. So we're good. Welcome everyone. Save that one. And then I'm just going to clear it and we're going to move on. We have someone who says that they are very, very knowledgeable. So awesome. I hope you learned something today. Next, we're going to jump into just a Jamboard. So what question do you have that that you would like answered on tonight's session? So Kirsty's going to drop the link into the Jamboard. So Jamboard is super awesome. If you click on that link there, you can actually go straight to Jamboard and go to slide number 3. Thanks, Kirsty. Slide number 3 is where we're going to start this evening. And on the left-hand side of your screen, you should be able to see, I'm going to stop sharing this one. I'm going to share the Jamboard slide here. Great. So here's what a Jamboard looks like. Here's slide number 3. Along the left-hand side of the screen, you can see these little sticky notes. If you click on a sticky note, it pops up a screen here for you. And you can type anything into that sticky note, whatever you want. What question? So what is your question? And hit save. And that's going to just pop up onto our screen there. And you can move it around. So give everyone a couple minutes here to throw in some questions. What question are you coming with today? And as always, you can throw those questions into the chat box and one of our wonderful hosts will record that information for you. Great. So I'm seeing some people get onto the Jamboard there. First couple, how to get a board back up and running from 0. Yep. Best practices for board engagement. I'd love to know more about a coach's role on a board. Is there one? How important is it? These are some really great questions so far. How often do sport boards have other sports involved on their boards? Great. Best positions for board members in their job descriptions? Absolutely. Awesome. So as we're typing there, I'll just let you all know that we'll try and get to some of these questions tonight. And any of the questions that we don't get to, we will actually make sure that we send out in some of our resources after the fact. So we hope to answer them, but if we don't get to them, we will absolutely help you out with your questions. Accountability for board members. That's a great one. How to get members engaged and accomplishing things without burnout. Yep. Do paid board members exist or honorariums? Absolutely. What programs and supports does Sport Nova Scotia have to recruit female athletes in coaching, officiating, and or board membership? Some tough questions here, everyone. This is awesome. All right. All right. You can keep your questions coming in real time there. Like I said, we're keeping all of this and we'll endeavor to answer these as we move along. So real women, real stories. When we launched the task force, we interviewed more than 12 women who have been or currently sit on community, provincial, or national sport boards. And these are some of the things that they told us. My experiences on boards were very different, especially what I was at different times on different PSO boards. One was with a board who had paid staff. It was comfortable and a respectful experience where the staff member was able to help move things forward. The other board, this individual that we interviewed had to work incredibly hard to make sure conversations were moved forward. There was a lot of heated discussions and personal agendas. I felt valued on my PSO board. I see the way our board interacts with me, and then I see how our NSO interacts with female representatives, and it is very opposite. I've always heard that PSO level. Gender equity is supported in our province. When I joined the board, I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I felt that I had something to offer and I had value. I had to work to earn it, but by the end of my tenure, I felt others valued my contribution. I felt valued, but there was a lot of dysfunction. The board itself didn't know how to operate. I wanted to get involved to help bring some structure, professionalism, and organization to the board. And I wanted to ensure coaches in the sport felt supported and engaged. I was asked to be on the board as a person who was holding the position no longer wanted it, and they knew my history as an athlete and coach. I saw a need. Girls who couldn't afford or didn't want to leave the province to play this particular sport. And in order to do that, we had to develop a new league. In the past, whoever had the biggest mouth got the job. Initially, it was legitimately being scared that the sport would fade away. My current involvement is trying to be a positive influence on the sport as it grows. I attended a competition intro coaching course. The learning facilitator came from Ontario and made a speech about how important volunteers are to sport, including board members. He talked about the fact that as a small sport, if you want to see the sport grow in Nova Scotia, you should be involved. I've been on the board since 2015. Some of those statements may resonate with you. Some of those may be completely opposite. What we want you to know and what we want to reinforce is that you're not alone. And if you're having an experience, chances are someone else has had a similar experience. Let's dig into it. So this is a generic depiction of how most sports systems work. As you can see, generally, international sport federations shape and dictate what happens at the national level. In turn, national sport organizations, or NSOs, shape regulations and rules for the provincial or territorial bodies to work within. Provincial and territorial organizations would then help put parameters or requirements around community sporting organizations, or CSOs. Something to consider, however, when looking at this graphic is the ever-increasing presence of the for-profit business in the sport realm. Private schools and entities, which are largely unregulated, generally don't fall under any one of these categories. One of the good things actually to come out of COVID and Nova Scotia specific, the return to sport plans, is that these private entities have had to, for the first time, for a lot of them, rely on the PSOs and follow their return to sport protocols and policies put in place in order to access facility time. It's quite unprecedented in our time. So things are evolving. The Nova Scotia sports system, we work quite differently than the rest of the country. Here in Nova Scotia, the Nova Scotia government, the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage, Sport Nova Scotia, and the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic all work together to help fund and support our sports system in many ways. The majority of these interactions are to the provincial sporting organizations or to the PSOs, but as you'll see as we move through our presentation, there are supports and resources available at all levels. More than 4 years ago, these three organizations acknowledged that they each have their own organizational mandates, but by collaborating, they can form a common agenda. And some of the priorities under that agenda were to broaden the reach, to increase participation, especially in underrepresented communities, to develop quality leaders, to build strong organizations, and to be able to celebrate success and tell our story. We are by no means saying that we are there yet, but this is kind of how these three organizations came together and really started to work together. For those of you on the call who may not know, who is Sport Nova Scotia? Sport Nova Scotia is a non-profit, non-government federated organization. The membership is made up of 50 sport governing bodies, or PSOs, over 50, sorry. And collectively, we're a voice for more than 160,000 member Nova Scotians, or folks participating in sport. Sport Nova Scotia operates in 5 main areas: sport development, marketing and events, coaching, public relations, and communications, finance, and administration. In each of these areas, programs and services are available to our membership, including consultation services. Um, the majority of our members operate sport programming, and we operate programs that support our membership. Programs such as Support for Sport, Sport Fund, which we'll go a little bit into, Cleve's Athlete of the Month, Milk Sport Fair, unfortunately not during COVID, coaching conferences, and many more. So Sport Nova Scotia's strategic plan and vision, the world we want, is that every single Nova Scotian has lifelong opportunities to experience positive benefit. Sarah is going to tell you a bit about Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I'm Sarah. As Janice mentioned, I'm with the CSCA. Our tagline is Empowering Excellence in Sport, and our vision goes right along with that. So we believe that when we work together, those who choose to pursue excellence in sport can achieve success given the right environment. And so that's what we're all about, trying to achieve that environment for athletes and coaches in Atlantic Canada. So what we do. So the goal of the CSCA is to provide an all-encompassing personal development and medical science team to serve high performance athletes and coaches in Atlantic Canada. So this service consists of identified leaders and experts from Atlantic Canada and that community. So that's who we try to bring into our fold as our team to help better the sports system on the excellence side. So who we are, in addition to these like experts and leaders, we're comprised of sport administrators, performance scientists. And so what that means is we have a team who works in operations, pathways and performance. So that's where I fall under athlete services and coaching. So that's our administrative side. And then on top of that, we have our performance scientists. So that includes strength and conditioning, performance analysts, physiologists, nutrition specialists, mental performance consultants, and of course, sport medicine. So physio, physician consultation, massage, those medical services. And so what services are available? So at the PSO level, some of these programs might sound familiar, hopefully. The RBC Training Ground Program, which is a talent identification and athlete funding program. The Ignite program, athlete development program. So that's a fun one I get to work on as well. Kind of working with that next generation of high performance athletes. The Nova Scotia Performance Science Program. So that's performance science support to high performance teams or training groups identified by the PSO. Coach education, the Nova Scotia Mentorship Program. So we'd be seeking potential mentors at the PSO level. The Advanced Coaching Diploma, professional development, which is titled our Podium Performance Sessions, and the VIP Coaching Program. And then at the community sport organization level, we would also offer coach education, the mentorship program again, and this time we'd be looking for mentees at that level, and professional development called Community Coach PD, and again, the VIP program. So that's kind of all inclusive.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
All right.
Before we go any further into our sports system, I'd be remiss to not talk about our sport development tool. I know that many of you on the call are involved at some capacity at the sporting organization level. And an understanding of the sport development tool really helps go a long way in how we function these days in our sports system. So the sport development tool is a framework that was used to determine the allocation of funds and supports for provincial sporting organizations in Nova Scotia. In partnership with the Sport Nova Scotia, CSCA, and the Canadian and the provincial government, Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage. Each PSO goes through the sport development tool process every 4 years. The purpose of the tool is to gain an in-depth understanding of each of the provincial sporting organizations. The information gathered through the sport development tool informs how programs, supports, and investment in PSOs should be allocated over the 4-year cycle. The original sport development tool had a total of 53 questions divided among 4 primary pillars. The 4 primary pillars are organizational effectiveness, participation, coaching and officiating, and excellence. All 53 of the PSOs in Nova Scotia completed the sport development tool at the time, which involved the PSOs first rating themselves on a scale of 1 to 4 for each question and then submitting documents to support that work. All PSOs then underwent an interview with the working group to review the self-assessment and discuss any discrepancies in scoring. So you understand a little bit more organizational effectiveness. The purpose of this pillar is to assess and determine strategic and operational planning and the extent to which PSOs have met requirements with consistent bylaws and systems for budgeting. They have systems for dispute resolution and to support quality staff, boards, and volunteers. The purpose of the participation pillar is to assess the extent to which PSOs are supporting quality sport development, to what extent they're engaging people from historically marginalized populations and delivering high quality, equitable, and accessible programs that engage a diverse group of stakeholders. The purpose of the coaching and officiating pillar is to ensure that coaches and officials are properly trained and have and follow policies that support fair and safe competition and are supported in their professional development. And last but not least, the excellence. The excellence pillar was to ensure that processing and budgeting systems are in place, quality training is achieved, sports science is supported, and athlete results are achieved, recognized, and celebrated. This process was undergone starting in 2018. The Sport Development 2.0 is around the corner, and for those PSOs, it will be starting in the fall of this year of 2021. And that funding will be for their funding cycle starting in April 1st of 2023, which when you think about it, seems like a long ways away, but I don't know about you, days fly and months disappear. So the funding allocation from the sport development tool is in the three areas. The core funding that comes from the province of Nova Scotia, and all PSOs that meet that eligibility requirement and complete the sport development tool receives funding from this. Participation, the participation funding comes from the Sport Nova Scotia and Support for Sport funding programs. The purpose of this funding is to support participation programming. The funding amounts were determined based on the score from the sport development tool. And last but not least is the excellence. So the purpose of this funding was to implement programs that are part of Nova Scotia Pathway Performance Initiative, or as we fondly refer to it as the NSPPI. We love our acronyms. And PSOs that scored in the first 3 tiers of the excellence pillar were eligible for funding in this program. So this is not something that's accessible for all of our PSOs. Who are the sport development leads? So there's actually been a staff member at either Sport Nova Scotia or at the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic that was tasked with each of these areas and continues to be an ongoing resource in these areas. As you can see, for participation, that's myself. And this learning series does fall under part of my responsibilities, so that's why you're here tonight. Blaise Landry would be organizational readiness, or what is now called organizational effectiveness. And at the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic, we have Danielle Poulos, who's in charge of the coaching and officiating, and Evan McGinnis, who's the excellence lead. It's helpful to put faces to names. We have all of these email addresses that we'll happily share with you as well after. And the sport consultants. So the sport consultants are with the province of Nova Scotia, the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage. The sport consultant's role is to provide guidance to sports for planning, program, project development, and to assist with any MOU and eligibility requirements. So each one of these 3 gentlemen, so Jason, Mike, and Brendan, are each assigned 17 or 18 sports that they work with specifically. So if you're a provincial sporting organization, you may or may not know who they are. Here they are. Jumping down into other available funding. So Support for Sport helps develop community and provincial sport programs through the sale of designated lottery products. The program raises funds for training and development opportunities for athletes, coaches, and officials through Sport Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia Gaming and Support for Sport are one of our biggest supporters and one of our biggest funders for our provincial sporting organizations, but also for our individual athletes and coaches. So Nova Scotia Gaming Support for Sport offers many different funding programs. So provincial sporting organization projects, so anything designated a PSO project in any of those 4 areas: organizational effectiveness, Participation, coaching and officiating, and excellence all qualify for projects. But what's great about support for sport funding is that we actually have individual coach initiative funding, individual official initiative funding, athlete assistance funding, technical leadership employment program. So we have quite a bit that they support their funding for. And all information regarding eligibility, deadlines, and minimum standard requirements for this can be found through the link in which one of the hosts will pop into the chat for us. What if I'm not an individual? What if I'm not a PSO? You have community funding. So Sport Fund is in our community for our community. Sport Fund focuses on community sport support. The goal of the fund is to support quality, sustainable programming, either by providing funds to help organizations create new programs, to expand or to enhance current programs to provide more opportunities for Nova Scotians to take part in sport. This is a bi-monthly application deadline. The next deadline is actually on April 15th. So you've got some time if you want to put one of these in. Find out if you're eligible for the Sport Fund grant. You're going to connect with your regional sport consultant. Who and what is a regional sport consultant, you asked? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Sport Nova Scotia supports and promotes the delivery of grassroots sport programs to all Nova Scotians. In 2010, the regional sport consultant position was established as a result of the partnership with Sport Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness and Sport Canada at the time. The regional sport consultants work in 6 regions across the province and strive to develop grassroots opportunities across all 6 regions of our province. So the Valley region, which includes the municipalities of Hants West, Clare, and the counties of Digby, Annapolis, and Kings, is Melissa Sullivan. The South Shore region, which is the counties of Yarmouth, Shelburne, Queens, and Lunenburg, as well as the District of Argyll, is Nicole Kenny. The Fundy region, so the municipalities of East Hants, Cumberland County, and Colchester County. The central, is Courtney Nicholson Patrickwood. My apologies. The central region, so HRM, is Janessa McPherson. The Highland region, so Guysborough County, Antigonish County, and Pictou County, is Gina McGuinness. And last but certainly not least, we have Cape Breton region, which is Cape Breton Island, and that is David Ogba, who is our newest regional sport consultant. These folks are fantastic resources. They are in your communities. They are not located in the central region. They are all located in the regional offices. And they are a great connect to help you if you don't know where to go or if you don't know who to connect with. That's kind of their job in the sport world. Resport is another collaborative effort of Sport Nova Scotia, CSCA, and the province of Nova Scotia. Resport believes that if all Nova Scotians have equitable opportunities to develop and realize their potential through sport, our province and our population would be stronger. So this program implements prototypes that have the potential to make sport and recreation more accessible and more enjoyable for Nova Scotians. Some examples of Resport projects to date include supporting the rollout of the Antigonish Sport Hub, which is a universal sport registration and communications platform, creation of an inclusion and access position in the Cumberland County, and swimming lessons for youth in North Preston. The call out to those folks who are watching this today is if something is missing from your sport and recreation in your community, we might be able to help. Email resport@sportnovascotia.ca to learn more about prototyping and our prototyping opportunities. Thanks, Trudy. Sport Hub has been amazing. That's great to hear. I assume that you're in the Antigonish region. What if I'm not a CSO or a PSO? So there are many resources available to you if you're not a formal PSO or a CSO. If you're a sport or recreation team or organization, there are RPACs, so recreation physical activity consultants, which are similar to our regional sport consultants, but their area of focus is the recreation and physical activity. Recreation Nova Scotia is a great resource, and Sport Fund may still be an option for you. Please reach out to myself or the RSC in your area if you have any specific questions, and if we don't have the answer, we can hopefully connect you to someone who does. I know you've listened to me talk for a good solid 15 minutes now, so I'm going to wake you up again. How knowledgeable, and we're going to shift focus a bit. How knowledgeable do you currently feel about sport board basics? So jumping back up to that annotation function, top of your screen, view options and annotate. Use your stamps or draw a little thing. Tell us how you are. Are you completely new to this or are you very knowledgeable? I love that. We've got a full scale so far. This is fantastic. Awesome. Give you 30 more seconds. Fantastic. So we really do have the full spectrum. So I am completely new to this all the way up to very knowledgeable. So that's great. All right. I'm going to hand the proverbial mic over to Rachel Webb. Rachel is completing her internship for Dalhousie's rec management program with me here at Sport Nova Scotia. Rachel herself is an accomplished athlete, coach, and board member with Cheer Nova Scotia. And in her spare time, she likes to hang with her cats, Jude and Pepper. Rachel, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Janice. Good evening, everyone. To start us off, we are going to look at what makes a good board. If we want to switch, perfect. So a board of executives can look and operate very differently from one organization to the next. However, there are a few things that every board should have in place to ensure maximum effectiveness. First, board members should have specific roles and job descriptions so that expectations for each member are clear right from the very beginning. It is also important that board members have a full understanding of the organization's goals and objectives. Strategic planning is an effective tool for board members to use to ensure that they are moving the organization in the right direction. And organizations should also use some form of governing documents, such as bylaws or policies. Bylaws are documents that define the governing and operational rules that the board of directors must operate under, whereas policies define the operations of the organization, such as their decision-making processes or employee code of conduct. Finally, the board should also have a basic understanding of how they're going to bring money into the organization and what they're going to spend it on. An approved yearly budget is a great place to start for boards in terms of financial planning. So next, we're going to talk about the different types of boards. Distinguishing what type of board your organization has is important because it often shifts the roles of board members slightly. In terms of sport organizations, there are usually three different kinds of boards: working, governing, and policy. Working boards are most common in small organizations that don't have the funds to hire paid staff, meaning that the organization's tasks are carried out by the board members themselves. In comparison, members of governing boards have the ability to focus on big picture planning and are able to delegate tasks to staff within the organization. Both of these types of boards also have the ability to function as a policy board, which is any board that develops policies to guide the operations of the organization. With that in mind, we're going to invite you to use the annotate function on Zoom again to mark what type of board you feel that you're currently on or would like to be a part of. We'll give you a few seconds to do that there. Awesome. So good mix, mostly working boards. Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and switch slides there. So in board, as mentioned before, it's important that even volunteer positions within an organization have proper job descriptions that highlight the responsibilities of each position. Most boards operate with these four primary roles: a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. They may not always be called this within the organization that you're working with. However, it's likely that these roles are being filled in some capacity. The president often facilitates operations and deliberations of the board, serving as the chief volunteer within the organization. The vice president's duties are to support the president and be prepared to step into their role in the absence. The secretary is typically responsible for maintaining records and ensuring proper documentation for the organization. And finally, the treasurer is responsible for managing the finances of the organization and are often tasked with creating the annual budget and tracking the income and expenses. Most sport organizations that have the ability to hire staff and are falling under that governing board look to fill some or all of the following roles. An executive director is usually responsible for the general management of the organization, overseeing the work done by other departments and working very closely with the board of directors to make sure that the organization is moving toward its goals. The technical director is generally in charge of the coaching direction within the sport organization, ensuring coaches are all working in ways that complement one another. They also play a large role in program development, establishing preferred coaching methods, and providing training opportunities. Sport organizations may also seek out an administrative coordinator to assist in clerical and other administrative duties, such as supporting the board in filing and tracking documents, booking facilities for programs, and managing membership. Finally, a sport organization may look to hire a high-performance coaches, a coach that's specifically responsible for developing their programs for high-performance athletes, providing mentorship and support for their elite athletes within their sport. So how do I get involved? Many people looking to get involved with sport in Nova Scotia begin at the community level. Getting connected with a local club is a great way to fill a variety of roles, such as a coach, registrar, team member, committee member, or board member. If you're looking to get involved at the higher level, it's best to reach out to the board of directors or executive director at the provincial sport organization you're interested in to discuss possible opportunities. If you're unsure of who to contact, you can always reach out to a member of the sport development team to be put in contact with the right people. And for a complete list of all the provincial sport organizations in Nova Scotia, as well as links to their websites with the information regarding membership opportunities, you can visit the Sport Nova Scotia website.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. I also wanted to put in that during our interviews, we asked the women how they got involved on the boards. Many said that they waited until they were recruited to be on a board, as they didn't feel that they were ready and they had to be recruited. We asked them what some of their advice would be to share, and here are some of the little tidbits that they shared with us. It's important to be an observer early. It's often young women that they bring onto boards. It's important to watch how the board works, what the process is, why these people are in the room. You need to sit there and figure out the people, figure out how to do things works in the soft sense, figure out how it works on the hard sense and the soft side, and how did this happen. If you're wanting to get involved at the board level, you have to put yourself out there. They're not always going to be looking for women to be involved, and there's a process to apply for some board positions. If there's a process to apply, ask a friend to nominate you. Board nominations, board roles, board responsibilities don't come from the sky. You have to go and make it happen. Another one of our interviewers or interviewees said, just do it. Your actions speak so much further than your words. Put yourself out there and do the work, especially the first time you're on the board. Build your credibility with your actions. This is appropriate for both men and women. You have an opportunity to help build something or help advocate for an important change. Sport in the grand scheme, you can advocate for change and see big picture changes at the provincial level. If you feel comfortable, talk to the president. But if you don't, make sure you talk to someone else on the board. Your opinion is important, and you bring value and an important different perspective. Keep your integrity. Women involved in sport need to have confidence in the sport they're representing and the passion to bring it forward to whatever arena makes sense to them. For some of you, that is the board. For some of you, that may just be officiating and coaching, and that's also great. Don't go in there with an agenda. Go in there and find a way to contribute. And then if something pops up, becomes important, you've already built relationships. If we spend too much time storming and talking for just talking's sake, we'll never get the job done. At the end of the day, it's not about you, it's about those who you're serving, the athletes. And last, which I think is the most important piece of information and a wonderful piece of advice, is don't wonder if you're good enough. You are, just go do it. We want to invite you to use the annotation one last time tonight, I promise. This has been a very, very high level introduction to Nova Scotia sport and kind of some really basic board information. Do you feel at this point more comfortable or knowledgeable about sport boards or the sport system in Nova Scotia? I will invite you to annotate now. Great, we've got a few feeling more comfortable. That's awesome. We have a couple people feeling the same, and that's okay too. Fantastic, we've got some in the middle. Awesome, I'm just gonna save this one here. I'm also going to invite everyone back to Jamboard. So we know that we didn't cover all of the questions tonight, but this is not where our conversation stops, and this is not where our resources and our assistance to you stops. So what we want to invite you to do is to go back to the Jamboard, and there are 3 slides dedicated to this. So slide number 4, do you have any other questions about the Nova Scotia sport system? Slide number 5, do you have any unanswered questions about board basics or sport boards based on the questions that you asked at the start? I know that there are some questions. And are there any specific resources that you would like or that you think would be helpful to you as someone either sitting currently on a board or someone who's interested in getting onto a board? You can navigate through the Jamboard slides by using the arrows up at the top of the screen. Feel free to answer any of the slide questions or answer just one of them. Alternatively, as always, you can type your questions into the chat and one of the hosts will ensure that they get recorded. And I would like to also put out there that if any of those questions didn't get answered in the first one, we will carry those over to the other slides after this presentation is over and make sure that we get you some answers. So our first slide got a few more stickies on it from the last time that I was in there, which is fantastic. So these are your navigation arrows up here at the top. A resource for developing board job descriptions. That's an awesome one. We actually do have a couple resources on that we'll be able to send out with the recording of this session. All right, so as you're all working on that there, I'm also going to invite you to look at the slides 7, 8, and 9 as well. We've left May as a flex session for our leadership series, and we want to know from you what you would like to know more about in the realm of sport leadership. So we're working to develop our May sessions now, and we're looking to you to see what you would like to know more information about. This is an opportunity for you to help shape it. So is there something specific you want us to talk about? Is there a specific panel that you would like to hear? Is there a specific person that you would like information from or you would like to hear from? We'd love to know, as these sessions are to help you in the realm of sport leadership.